Everyone knows Chernobyl was an accident. That's the story we've been told for decades. A late-night safety test, human error, bad design, a catastrophic mistake, case closed. But what if that explanation is incomplete? What if Chernobyl wasn't simply a tragic accident, but something far more disturbing? What if the reactor didn't fail unexpectedly, but was pushed past the point of no return? To understand why this question even exists, we need to step back into the mindset of the Soviet Union. This was a system built on secrecy, pressure, and absolute control. Failure wasn't just embarrassing, it was dangerous. Admitting weakness could end careers, erase reputations, or worse. And in that world, nuclear power wasn't just energy. It was ideology, prestige, proof of superiority. Officially, the disaster is blamed on a flawed reactor design combined with operator mistakes during a routine test. But that explanation raises immediate questions. Why was a risky experiment allowed on an unstable reactor? Why were multiple safety systems disabled intentionally? Why was the test pushed forward despite clear violations of protocol? These weren't small oversights. They were deliberate decisions. Even more unsettling, this wasn't the first time Reactor 4 had problems. Internal reports suggest earlier incidents: power instability, unexpected reactor behavior. Yet the plant remained operational. Why? One possibility is negligence. Another possibility is ambition. And the most disturbing possibility is this: what if Soviet scientists wanted to understand what happens when a reactor goes beyond its limits, not accidentally, but deliberately? During the Cold War, knowledge itself was a weapon. Understanding reactor failure wasn't just about safety. It had military implications: weapons design, containment limits, radiation dispersal, information no other nation had. And that kind of knowledge couldn't be simulated easily. It had to be observed. Now consider the secrecy after the explosion. The delay in evacuation, the denial, the silence. Even neighboring countries detected radiation before the Soviet government admitted anything had happened. If this was merely an accident, why the immediate instinct to suppress information? Why weren't international experts called in sooner? Why were so many records classified for decades? Some documents remain sealed to this day. Others were released with redactions so heavy they tell us almost nothing. And then there are the witnesses. Engineers who later claimed warnings were ignored. Technicians who said the test parameters kept changing. Officials who insisted orders came from above. Orders that couldn't be questioned. This leads to a darker interpretation. Not that everyone knew what would happen, but that someone was willing to accept catastrophic risk, to gain forbidden knowledge, a controlled disaster, until it wasn't controllable anymore. History gives us reason to be cautious but not dismissive. Governments have conducted dangerous experiments before, often in secret, often on their own people. Radiation tests, chemical exposure, psychological experiments. Chernobyl wouldn't be an exception. It would be the most extreme example. But here's the crucial point. There is no definitive proof that Chernobyl was an intentional sacrifice. What exists instead is something more unsettling: inconsistencies, missing data, decisions that make no sense if safety was the priority. Enough questions to make the official story feel insufficient. So maybe the truth lies somewhere in between. Not a fully planned catastrophe, not a simple accident, but a reckless experiment pushed too far by a system that believed control was absolute, a system that underestimated chaos and the real tragedy. If this was an experiment, even partially, the cost was human lives, poisoned land, and generations of suffering, all for knowledge that may never be fully revealed. Chernobyl stands today not just as a nuclear disaster, but as a warning about secrecy, about arrogance, about the belief that nature can be controlled without consequence. So the question isn't just, was Chernobyl an accident or an experiment? The deeper question is this: how much truth can remain hidden when an entire system depends on silence? And how many other accidents in history deserve to be questioned again